Welcome to Episode 8, Cry Wolf. Make a guess what monster's in this one. I'll give you a clue. It's not Victorian horror Spring-Heeled Jack. We have a werewolf in this episode, and already it's pretty clear that an American werewolf in London this definitely ain't. So the police are investigating the fact that a body was found in about 35 small and even pieces, and things are so serious that they've called in the animal expert Officer Mullet here, who frankly looks like he should be swanning around 19th century Central Europe in a puffy shirt and writing poetry. So the police very slowly make their way towards whatever they're going to capture, and we hear a dubbed-on lion's roar.
That's...
Fine, except the thing making the roar was this. A man who resembles an emo version of Mr. Ogre from Time Bandits. Brief biology lesson. This is a lion. It can roar. This is a person. It can't. So Officer Mullet injects a hunk of Flintstone-sized raw meat that they just happen to have lying around with them, full of some sort of drugs, and feeds it to what loosely can be described as the werewolf. And frankly, they got a couple of points over the Jersey Devil episode of The X-Files by actually having him naked. So Officer Mullet talks to his compatriot Officer Idiot about the wild man, how wild children have been found and successfully reached.
This is different. We're talking about a grown man here.
Exactly, he's a man, a human, and he can be reached.
Well, of course, with him being a grown man, it'd obviously be easier to reach him, even though in every case of wild people that I've ever come across, it indicates that the less time they spend wild, the more chance that they have to become a normally functioning person. But since she's a TV expert and I'm just someone who reads shit, she's obviously right. Officer Mullet tells her to stop being an idiot and then goes to talk to this blind guy. Well, I assume he's blind because he can't see Officer Idiot sneak into the room in front of him. In there, she finds a bunch of dogs in cages and a randomly electronically sealed cell, and I wonder what they normally keep in there. A Wendigo? A mountain lion? Outside, the conversation goes from ridiculous to ridiculouser.
I need you to tell me whether he's dangerous.
Are you fucking high? It's a good thing Officer Mullet has a trailer line to reply with. It's just a pity that no one has ever turned this into a trailer.
Nature is danger.
Now, are you wondering why I call the woman Officer Idiot? Well, here's why. She immediately enters the cell containing the wild man who has killed and consumed at least one woman. She does this alone without telling anyone what she's doing. She also locks the fucking door behind her, so if she didn't have the good fortune of being the lead in a work of fiction, she would have her own chapter in a Darwin Awards book by now. She shoves a mirror in the wild man's face because it'll prove that he's got a brain that functions just as well as any other human beings that just hasn't been socialized. Which is pretty fucking obvious, really. So Officer Mullet and Officer Idiot decide to try and reach him, not in a mental institute or a care home or anything, but by taking him home, putting a shirt on him and feeding him pate, thus showing you that this man might run around naked and eat raw meat, but he has more common sense than either of you fuckbrains. They might have bound his hands, but they're still morons. Now, while I was busy wondering why the wild man doesn't have a beard, they get down to the serious business of drinking wine and giving him a name.
How about Mowgli?
Mowgli means frog. How Raksha?
Raksha. Yeah, I like that.
The wild man then feeds her some of his pate because he likes her, and Officer Idiot decides to remove his restraints and give him a bath while she's alone, with someone who's killed and eating at least one person. Stupidity like this shows up on the fucking Richter scale!
It's strange. He's copying everything I do.
Oh fuck, I hope he sees you with a vibrator. And just so you know, I think these two are dating now.
You're jealous, aren't you?
So, sexual tension that came out of nowhere, especially since they were setting it up that she would end up fucking Tarzan. And when did Officer Mullet get scratched? Why are they suddenly into blood play? That's supposed to be done cleanly, you morons. And why does the wild man have a psychic link with them? Why did you leave the wild man alone in the bath? Why didn't you cut his fucking nails? And I've asked this before, but why did you give him a bath? Why did you bring him home? This story can only happen because everyone's retarded. So the wild man managed to tear out one of his fingernails in the bath somehow, and Officer Mullet takes it back with him and decides to get it genetically tested. You know, the sort of thing they would have done when they found him to work out if he's any family. But of course, that's not why he's testing, is to check what species he is, and it turns out he's 13% wolf. Okay, werewolf, fair enough. It doesn't explain why you took him home, or why Officer Idiot has been sleeping with him alone, or why you haven't got round to cleaning that wound, or where the wound came from in the first place. So someone breaks into Officer Idiot's house and drugs her, and she wakes up in the hospital dressed like the heroine from a 19th century Gothic novel. Officer Mullet decides to prove to her that he's part wolf. He doesn't show her the genetic results like a sane person, but rather points out his fangs, which she already knew about, and the fact that he ate a lamb, when he ate a human being just before this episode began.
So you see, he's not a he. He's an it.
No, animals have sexes, humans have sexes. Therefore, a human-animal hybrid will most likely have sexes. He's a he. Officer Mullet then explains that the silver of his ring calmed him down in the bath, and he's most likely descended from people who fucked their dogs back in the Ice Age and created wolf-human hybrids because that's how biology works. The police and the scientists yell at each other about all sorts of things, but unfortunately no one even thinks to mention the fact that Officer Mullet fucking drugged and kidnapped Officer Idiot. But it's okay, because she's being placed into isolation in case becoming a werewolf is infectious, which doesn't even make sense because they let her walk out of the ward she was in. So Officer Mullet talks to the police chief, who looks a lot less like a police chief than most police chiefs I've ever seen, but what the fuck? They talk about how there's more out there.
The city is a perfect place for them to breed. Lots of warmth, lots of shelter, lots of food.
Lots of people who could find them, but for some reason don't. Naked people running around tend to get attention, especially if they eat other people.
We take a team.
You can take as many people as you want, but they'll smell you coming.
You got a better idea?
2 men. You and I. We go quickly, we go quietly, and we hunt.
Be as quiet as you like, they can still smell you, moron. So the wild man pretends to die, to the extent of stopping his fucking heart just so he can take a bite out of someone's face and escape. Yesterday he didn't know his reflection, and now he's the Hannibal fucking Lecter of lycanthropes. Take from that what you will. So inside an abandoned theatre, the police chief and Officer Mullet come across a group of feral children who are... Why are the kids dressed? Oh, I get why they're dressed from a production point of view, but from a story point of view? Any ideas? At all? Of course, the police chief offers the kids a chocolate bar, someone raised on raw human flesh. The police chief is their usual food source. This is like a hamburger trying to buy its life by offering a hungry person a stone to eat instead. Thankfully, this piece of stupidity actually ends up killing the stupid person in question. So the wild man gets into Officer Idiot's quarantine room because the quarantine is that damn good, and Officer Mullet has decided that he's going to become the king of the werewolves. And the wild man and Officer Idiot fuck, therefore showing that the man becomes a beast and the beast becomes a man or something. And then Officer Mullet begins killing the children and the wild man's psychic powers kick in again.
Oh, well. You kids certainly seem to have had some fun.
What did you do?
You know what lions do when they move in on another's territory? They kill their competition's young. Where is he?
First you tell me something. When lions are hunting, how do they take down their prey?
It's easy. One distracts, and the other attacks. Clever girl.
So, fight, and the wild man's affected by the silver, and Officer Mullet isn't, even though they're both now werewolves, and Officer Idiot takes the silver ring from the wild man, and the wild man is now a dog, which makes me think about those urban legends involving women, peanut butter, her dog, and oral sex. This episode features the stupidest characters in this show so far, and just to refresh your memory, this series has featured people who decided that the best way to find out how someone died was to do necromancy, and paramedics who did not realise that you can resuscitate people. Most fans of the show seem to think that this is one of the show's high points. I counter by suggesting that they should possibly re-watch this episode while not on tranquilizers. This is fucking idiotic in every way. It's not fun, not clever, and not worth your time. This is one of the bad ones.